Hey, good day to you. Michael Didier here with We Are Israel Torah class. This is nearing the last class. We're going to finish Deuteronomy today. I want to tie up some things perhaps next week, and I think we're going to call it done. This is our second time through the Torah, and we've learned a lot in these five and a half years. These classes are all recorded, so you can listen to them from the very beginning. I hope you do. You know, those first even 3 chapters of Genesis give us such a foundation for understanding Yehovah's words. Going through Genesis in particular and understanding that it's all about the land and the seed, the land and the seed. Yehovah's got spiritually born seed, his seed, his kind that have got to inherit the land. We did it once, we're gonna do it again. Well, last week we talked about the Song of Moses. It was given to Israel's seed. You know, we want to say the children of Israel. And then we want to include everybody who's with Israel, but that's not the case. You know, many translations say the sons of Israel. But that's not accurate either, because it's not about men. It's about spiritually born men. It's about the leaders of their households. Those Chassid, Elohim kind, who were Belial kind, but through Passover became his sons and his heirs. This is who the Song of Moses is written to. And there are many, well, you know what? They're so far removed from being true B'nai Israel, Israel's seed. The vast majority who call themselves Yehovah's people don't even have a clue what Israel's seed is. That's why I say they're still talking about the children of Israel. We're lost. We've got to go back to the roots. And that's what I've tried to do at this series of teaching, is help us to understand the deeper things. Yehovah talks about his people. His people and the world's people, the nation's people, are not the same. You can't serve 2 masters. You either serve Yehovah, leave the kingdom of your birth, and make yourself his, or you don't, and you're destroyed in the end. This is what the song's all about. Let's briefly, as much briefly as I can do it, go through what we talked about last week. He says, "Give ear, O heavens," verse 1. "Hear, O earth, the words of my mouth's words." These are the words, I'd like to say, given to him by Yehovah. We just have so many challenges with Deuteronomy, as we've seen in the past weeks. He says, "For I proclaim the name of Yehovah." You know what? That's what I want to do. I want to proclaim the name of Yehovah, ascribe greatness to my Elohim. He's the rock. His work is perfect. For all his ways are justice, an Elohim of truth, without injustice, righteous, and Yasher, Zadik, and Yasher is he, upright is he. Now compare that with us. He says, they, who's it written to? It's written to Israel's seed. This is words that are given to Israel's seed to speak to Israel's seed. Some are good, some are his servants, most are not. He says, they have corrupted themselves. Here, let me read it here. Ruined to him. They are not his sons. His sons. It's about sons. His sons. These are spiritually born sons. Born of Yehovah. This doesn't say B'nai. We're talking about his sons. They are a blemished generation. Where he said, a faithful El, without wickedness. Righteous and upright is he. He says the opposite of them. They are blemished. They are a blemished generation, distorted and crooked. Oh my, what have we done to ourselves? For Yehovah's portion is his people. You know, Yehovah owns the cattle on 1,000 hills. Everything is his. But the one thing that he wants, the one thing that he desires was the man that he created in his own likeness and in his own image. We fell. Adam birthed Seth in his own likeness and in his own image, the fallen image. And so the goal of this whole Torah is to bring his spiritually born men, the sons of Belial, Adam's seed, all fleshly born men, back to him. And they can become spiritually born men. That's what he desires. That's what he wants. His portion is his people. He found him in the desert. That's where he found me. I was lost in the desert, in a wasteland, in a howling wilderness. And he encircled me and instructed me and kept me as the apple of his eye once I finally became his. He did that for Israel. He's going to do that for Israel again. He gave us all these good things. But Yeshurun, this is what he calls us. His segula. Yeshurun. Yeshurun. Grew fat and kicked. You grew fat. You grew thick. You are obese. He says, then he forsook Elohim who made him and scornfully esteemed the rock of his salvation. Oh my goodness, that's what people are doing right now. The Torah has passed away. We don't need that Old Testament Elohim. We've got the New Testament Elohim, don't you know? Folks, you've learned lies. Worthless and unprofitable things. Yehovah is the rock of Israel's salvation. If you don't become Israel, his spiritually born men, you're nothing. You're lost. It says they provoked him to jealousy with Zorim, is the word that they said. They translate it foreign Elohim. Yeah, you can go foreign Elohim. That's all right. They're foreign lawmakers and judges. With abominations, he provoked them. What is the first abomination? Look. They slaughtered what did we say here? They slaughtered to demons. Not Elohah. To Elohim, they knew not. Lawmakers and judges, they knew not. Yes, that's the meat that we eat. And all the bladim is on us. Oh my goodness, if we just understood this, how important this is. This is the meat that we eat every day. It's slaughtered to the FDA's statutes and judgments and ordinances. From what we've seen, even kosher food is done exactly the same way. They just threw a few of their things in, but they're still doing, they have to do it in conjunction with the FDA. He says, of the rock who bore thee, thou art unmindful, and have forgotten the El who gave thee birth. We're talking about a spiritual birth. Oh my. We've forgotten our Elohim. We're following the statutes and the judgments and the ordinances of the Elohim of the land. He says, oh, that they were wise, that they understood this, that they would consider their latter end. You know what? We don't consider our latter end. Oh man, we have learned lies. We don't want to learn the things, learning Yehovah's ways, his statutes, his judgments, his ordinances. Everything in your life is going to change. It's not about just believing and confessing. Baloney. It's about changing. It's about conforming your life, leaving the kingdom of your birth, joining yourself to a new Elohim, a new lawmaker and a judge, and becoming holy. Yes, it changes everything in your life. Oh, that they were wise, that they understood this, that they would consider their latter end. They don't. We don't. Yehovah says, vengeance is mine and recompense. He's talking to Israel's seed. The world is already SOL. He's talking to Israel's seed. Vengeance is mine and recompense. Their foot shall slip in due time. For the day of their calamity is at hand, and the things to come hasten upon them. What does he say? For Yehovah will judge his people and have compassion on his servants. You know what? Most of the people who say they're his people aren't his servants. They just say they're his servants. They actually serve another Elohim or serve other Elohim. He mocks us then. Because we are serving other Elohim. Listen to what he says. He will say, where is their Elohim? The rock in which they sought refuge. Where do most of us seek refuge? Here, Obama, the Army, the Navy, the Marines, PEMCO, Allstate, Geico. Who do we trust for our security? Who do we serve? You know what? Open your wallet. This is why they have you open your wallet when you get stopped. Your papers, please. License and registration. No, they want to know who you serve. And your driver's license and all the things that you have in your wallet are the evidence of who you serve. He's still mocking us. Where are their Elohim, the rock in whom they sought refuge? He says, now see that I, even I, am he. There is no Elohim besides me. I kill, I make alive. I wound, I heal. Nor is there any who can deliver from my hand. Man, we want to make Yeshua the Elohim. He's not. There is no Elohim besides me. For I raise my hand to heaven and say, I live forever. We do not consider our latter end. So Moses finished speaking all these words to Israel. Israel's the children of Israel. B'nai Israel, the thing that you always hear, that's Israel. The people is Israel. Thy sons, look at the next verse. We're still talking about B'nai Israel. We're talking about Israel. Spiritually born men. And he said to them, set your hearts on all the words that I testify among you today, which you shall command your sons to be careful to observe all the words of this Torah. For it's not a futile thing for you, because it is your life. And by this word you shall prolong your days. It's our life. We do not consider our latter end. We've got to consider our latter end. Well, the last thing he talks about after he finished the song was Yehovah telling him to go up to the mountain. Go up this mountain. of the Avarim. Remember, the Avarim is a range of mountains that are along the eastern shore of the Dead Sea. Mount Nebo is one of the mountains in that particular range at the north end of it. He tells, go up to this mountain of the Avarim, Mount Nebo, which is in the land of Moab across from Jericho. View the land of Canaan, which I give to Israel's seed as a possession, and die. He's going to die here. He's going to see the land. We're going to see that, I think, in the very next chapter. Let's take a look. This is where we're going to begin today. 33. Now this is the blessing with which Moses, this says the man of God, this is actually the Elohim's man. We want to make it the man. They put the definite article on the man. You know what? Let's get the definite article where it belongs. This is the Elohim's man. Blessed Israel's seed. Again, we're talking to spiritually born multi-generations of men. You know, if this was Israel's sons, they're long gone. Long gone. We, Israel's seed, here in Moab with Moses, is actually carrying their bones. We carried them out of Egypt. We're going to bury them. We're going to find it next week. We'll see where we're going to bury all those men. But this is not Israel's sons. These are multi-generations of that spiritually born man. And these are spiritually born men. Not the flesh-born men. There's a lot of flesh-born men that died back in Egypt, in the wilderness. Unbelieving, hard-hearted men who would not follow and trust Yehovah holy. Even now, Yehovah is raising up men who will trust him wholly. Those are the men he's going to pick to begin with. Those are the men like Moses. I think a prophet. A prophet will arise like Moses. Him you shall hear. Well, I think this is going to be prophets all over the earth. That men that Yehovah is going to raise up for himself. His shelakim, his sent ones. He's going to put a pillar of fire over them. And men are going to be drawn to them when they see that supernatural fire and smoke. It's going to be a beautiful thing. And he said, Yehovah came from Sinai and dawned on them from Seir. He shone forth from Mount Paran, and he came with 10,000 of his, let's see what it says here. He came with 10,000. Well, let me do this. I'm just going to read it here on the right. And he said, from Sinai, Yehovah came. And a light dawned from Seir. His light dawned. Now, I added his light. It's a dawning. But it's his light that's dawning from Seir. A light shined from Mount Paran. And he arrived with myriads. They've translated as 10,000s. Myriads of Kodesh ones. Myriads of Kodesh. Kodesh myriads. From his right hand, from his right hand, a fiery law. You know, I see these saints. When you see this word saints, look it up. Find out what the word is. This happens to be Kodesh. But we're going to see that there are other words that gets translated as saints. The one that I'm most interested in is the Kassid. His Kassid. Remember, we're talking about the sons of Belial becoming his kind. His seed, the Ezra men. Yes, he loves. What does he love? He loves peoples. I would say his peoples is who we're talking about. They just put the people. Which people are we talking about? We're talking about his people, because look what he says then. He says, all his kodeshim, all his holy ones. They're his people. So it's completely justified to add that word his there. But we're talking about peoples. Why is it a plural word? I always ask myself, most of the time he says people. Why does he say peoples here? Could this be what was the word that we used for that? The qualitative plural? I think it might be. All his holy ones are in his hand. And to receive thy word, they sat down at thy feet. This is an interesting change. He's talking about his people, his holy ones. This is the thing that says his right here, this little vav, his kodeshim. But then he goes on and he starts talking about thy hand, are in thy hand. To receive thy words, they sat down at thy feet. I think that this thy must be Moses. Like a humble son listening at the feet of his father. It reminds me of Deuteronomy 6. All these words which I command thee today, shall be in thy heart. Thou shalt teach them diligently to thy sons. Thou shalt talk of them when thou sit in thy house, and when thou walk in the way, and when thou lies down, and when thou rises up. Why is it the plural people? I think it's the qualitative plural, just like it's the qualitative Elohim. Talking about Yehovah versus the Elohim, same word, quantitative Elohim, which is the Elohim, the lawmakers and judges of the land. Multiple. The plural of grandeur is the qualitative plural. The Elohim of all creation. The lawmaker and judge. So I put, it could be the qualitative plural. Or it could indicate these Ezra men who sat with him at the mountain, and those Ezra men who would hear him in the future. People like me. People like you who are listening to this teaching. We want to know more. People don't listen to me because I'm entertaining. They listen to me because they stop and they think, well, maybe he does have something to say. Maybe I can learn something deeper in Yehovah's word. Here's what he said in the last chapter, a couple of chapters ago. I make a covenant, and I make this covenant, and this oath, not with you alone, but with him who stands here with us today before Yehovah, our Elohim, as well as him who is not here with us today. I think that's people like me that are coming, leaving the kingdom of their birth and coming to his kingdom as a ger, and then at Passover becoming the Ezra man. His kind. His Kassid. Again, we're talking about this saints, the people, all his saints, all his kodeshim. It's the same word that we were talking about before up above. But then we're going to see a different word also today. Verse 4. Moses commanded a law for us. Moses commanded to us a law, a possession of Jacob's assembly to us. A possession of Jacob's assembly. Not all of Jacob's assembly is going to be numbered among Israel. There's men who died. There's men who did not leave Egypt. They stayed. They didn't keep the Passover. Maybe they died. This says, and he, with a capital He. We're talking about Moses, not Yehovah. And he was king in Yeshurun. when the leaders of the people were gathered, all the tribes of Israel together. Who was the king? Moses was the king. He was the top dog. Yeah, see, we're talking about, let's look at it in the context. Here's Moses. Moses commanded a law for us. Moses commanded for us a law, a heritage of the congregation of Jacob. And he was king in Yeshurun. When the leaders of the people were gathered, all the tribes together, he's going to now bless Israel, the tribes of Israel, one by one. Here, let me just finish my notes on the right-hand side here. Here's Yeshurun. Here, Yeshurun. There it is, Yeshurun. Upright. Yeshurun, a symbolic name for Israel. It's the affectionate name, a poetic name for Israel used as a token of affection, meaning the dear, upright people. Here's 32:15. But Yeshurun waxed fat. Oh, this is the one we read in the last chapter. I don't want to read that one again. Here's another one with Yeshurun in it, Isaiah 44. And now hear, O Jacob, my servant, and Israel, whom I have chosen. Thus says Yehovah, who made thee and formed thee from the womb, which will help thee. Fear not, O Jacob, my servant, and thou, Yeshurun, who I have chosen. It's Yeshurun that he is choosing for himself as a people. He begins by talking about the firstborn of Jacob's house, Reuben. He says, let Reuben live and not die, nor let his men, Reuben's men, be few. Be few. Isn't that an interesting thing? Remember, Reuben was the one who slept with, was it Zilpah or Bilhah? I think it was Zilpah, Leah's maidservant. Let Reuben live and not die. Let his men be few. A lot of them say, let his men be few. But here's the King James version. That's KJVA. That just means with Apocrypha. So it's the King James version. It says, let Reuben live and not die, and let not his men be few. Well, you know what? That not is not there. This says, and let his men be few. But let his men be few. And they put in ESV. But let his men be few instead of and. I always want to go back to the Hebrew. You can get more out of the Hebrew. And this, he said to Judah, hear Yehovah, the voice of Judah. Hear Judah's voice. And bring him to his people. Let his hands be made sufficient for him. And may you be a help against his enemies. Remember, Judah seemed to be the strongest son among Jacob's seed. Jacob's sons. Let's say Jacob's sons. Because we're not talking about multi-generations here, physical or spiritual. We're talking about Judah himself. Judah was probably the strongest of the sons. When we fought against the Amorites, we saw that when we went through, oh man, it must have been 37. Well, it was just after we had taken Shechem. We had gone south for a few years and then came back to Shechem, the same place. And those nations rose up against us. And it was Judah. His brothers, his other 10 brothers, Joseph and Benjamin were not involved in that. And about 103 servants who took out 7 huge towns. But Judah was a mover and a shaker in those battles. When we went down to Egypt to get our brother Benjamin, remember Benjamin had gone down, it was Judah who was ready to tear the gates off of all of Egypt. He assigned each brother a whole road. You take this road, I'll take these 2 roads, and we're going to destroy this whole city. And they could have done it. I think that Joseph knew it and stopped him before it got out of hand. Judah, remember, he's going to be the king. And bring to him his people, his people. Let his hands be sufficient for him, and may you be a help against his enemies. Levi. And Levi, he said, let your Tumim and your Urim. Look at here. This is the same word. This is Holy One now. Interesting. They didn't translate Kodashim as Holy One. But here we're translating something else as Holy One. Here's the word right here. Thy Tumim and thy Urim are for thy Kasid. This is the word we're talking about. There we go. Kasid. Properly kind. We're talking about Yehovah kind. These are spiritually born men. That's who the Tumim and the Urim are for. To help lead those men whom thou tested at Massah, whom thou contended at the waters of Meribah. You know, I saw Massah and Meribah. Was this 2 different places? Don't recall there being 2 different places. Well, look what it says here. This is Massah. This happens to be Easton Bible Dictionary. It says, trial temptation, a name given to the place where the Israelites, by their murmuring for want of water, provoked Yehovah to anger against them. It is also called Meribah. So Massah and Meribah are one and the same thing. Just help us to understand it. But what I'm most interested in was who this Tumim and this Urim is for. This is thy Urim and thy Tumim. We're talking about Levi. The man who wears the Tumim and the Urim is the high priest to all Yehovah's Kasid. Kasid. You guys, we've got to understand what the Kasid is. I put even Moses, a Levite, was found wanting at Massah. He was. And isn't it interesting that Moses was a Levite? You know, it looks to me by Isaiah 66 that the new priests and the new Levites are going to come from this group of people, his Kasid, his servants, the ones that he's raising up to be his Shalakim, his sent ones in the earth. Remember, his Shalakim speak for him, just like Joshua did. Sun, stand still, and moon, don't move, till my enemies are destroyed. Well, here's the Kasid. This is where I first discovered it. Isaiah 50, verse 5. Gather to me my saints, my kind, is literally what we're talking about. Gather to me my kind. These are spiritually born men who have been reconciled to him through Passover. His Ezra men. B'nai Israel, who cut covenant with me by slaughter. There's the Passover right there. This is how an Ezra man becomes an Ezra man. He was a ger. He circumcised himself, all the men of his household. And now he's going to become an Ezra man at Passover. Those who cut covenant with me by slaughter, by zavik. Let's continue. Still talking about Levi, who says to his father and mother, I have not seen them. Isn't that a funny thing for him to say? They have said to his father and to his mother, I have not seen him. And he has not acknowledged his own brothers, nor knew his own son, his son. They added the own, his son. For they, Levi, have observed thy word and kept thy covenants. Well, most of these are saying the same thing, but here it says his own son, and EB. This one says his brother or his children. No, this is definitely his son. His son. Verse 10. They shall teach Jacob thy judgments, and Israel thy law. Still talking about Levi. They shall put incense before thee. Thee. This is Yehovah. Thy judgments, thy law. They will put incense before thee. And look what it says. Whole burnt sacrifices. No, what it's saying here is this word here, kalil. Kalil. Entirely consumed things. Got to be talking about the olah. I put my note here. The only korban offering that is wholly consumed is the olah, or rising. It is a sweet aroma to Yehovah, who as is the incense burned before him. So we're talking about the incense, and we're talking about this kalil, this thing that is entirely consumed, both a sweet aroma to Yehovah, sweet aroma to his nostrils. Moses says, bless his substance. This is Levi that he's talking about. Remember, Levi doesn't have land. Bless his substance, Yehovah, and accept the work of his hands. Strike the loins of those who rise against him, and of those who hate him, that they rise not again. Levi is important to Yehovah. They're the teachers of Yehovah's law. The buck stops with them. They're the ones, and the priests, of course, but they're the ones that are going to help Israel understand what they're supposed to do. What do I have here? Remember that Levi has no land of significance. They do have a little bit of land around some of the cities that are theirs. But he does have stuff. He has substance. Remember, they are given the tithe. The tithe of the land, the tithe of the herds, the tithe of the flocks. Any gifts that are going to be given to Yehovah are given to the priests. Not so much the Levites, but they're given to the priests. The priests are going to get 10% of the Levites' 10% for the land and the herds and the flocks. Loins. Here's the word loins, a masculine dual noun, meaning loins, waist, body, side. It refers to the section of the human body which connects and supports the upper and lower part of the body, including the buttocks, lumbar region. A Benjamin, he said, the beloved of Yehovah shall dwell in safety by him, who shelters him all, let's see what it says, all the day. The day. Look at this is one place where it is Hayom. Remember, all this thing has been saying this day, Hayom, all throughout Deuteronomy. Here it actually says the day. The day. That's actually translated it correctly. The day. He shelters him all the day long, and he shall dwell between his shoulders. Remember, Benjamin was the younger brother of Joseph. When Joseph was taken, Jacob kept Benjamin very close to him, kept him safe. It appears to me that Yehovah is going to keep Benjamin safe as well. He shall dwell between his shoulders. Is that a place of safety, dwelling between Yehovah's shoulders? And Joseph, he said, blessed of Yehovah is his land, with the precious things of heaven, with the dew and the deep lying beneath, lying beneath the earth. In other words, he's bringing the precious things from heaven, the rain from heaven, the snow from heaven, to water the earth. He's going to do it with dew and with the deep lying beneath. There's a deep what? A deep of waters lying beneath. These are the springs that come up out of the earth that help water the earth. Remember, Joseph was the brother who was persecuted by his brethren. Was he the firstborn spiritually? Was he the one used by Yehovah to deliver his people from famine? And how does the coat of many colors fit in the picture? Could it have long-term fulfillment as a firstborn of many nations that he will use in these last days? I guess I'm just, these are just things that I'm thinking about. We're going to see, I think it's in this one. Yeah, his glory is the firstborn bull. Still talking about Joseph. Yehovah has a lot to say about Joseph. Could it have long-term fulfillment as the firstborn of many nations? Yeah, that's what I wonder. Remember, his brothers hated Joseph. His father loved Joseph. He gave him that coat of many colors. What did that coat of many colors represent? Did it represent something? His brothers hated him. I wonder if he was the first to be spiritually born among his brethren. Could that be? Could that be part of the reason why they hated him so much? Obviously, his father loved him very much, and they were jealous about that. But maybe that's why he loved him, because he was the firstborn, spiritually born, I'm talking about, of course, among his brethren. His land is watered from above and beneath. Yes, it is. He goes on, still talking about Joseph. With precious fruits of the sun brought forth each month. His crops are blessed by the sun every month. They put with precious produce of the months. Some of them actually say things from the moons. I think we got to have a different rendering of this. And I like the translation that I came up with here. I'm not adding any words. And from the precious fruits of the sun brought forth each month. Then it says, with the best things of the ancient mountains, with the precious things of the everlasting hills. Again, they're adding words. And precious things from ancient mountains, eternal hills. Probably talking about silver and gold, precious things, diamonds, rubies. Ancient mountains, eternal hills. Do you hear how they're both the same thing? It's just another way of saying it. With precious things of the earth and its fullness, and the favor of him who dwelt in the bush. What is this dwelt in the bush stuff? I don't even know what that is. I'm thinking maybe jewels, spices. No, probably not jewels, spices, other things. Who was separated from his brother, what does it say? With the precious things of the earth and its fullness, and the favor of him who dwelt in the bush. Who dwelt in the bush? Let the blessing come on the head of Joseph and on the crown of the head of him who was separated from his brothers. Who was separate from his brothers? No, separated from his brothers. It says, his glory. Again, I'm rewriting it. The firstborn of his herd's glory. Who's his herds? This is an analogy. The firstborn of his herd's glory. Joseph. That's why I say, was Joseph firstborn? Spiritually born? Could that be? Of his herd's glory, and with his horns he shall make war against the peoples. This is peoples together to the ends of the earth. Now it's going to say who they are. That's going to make war. He says, and they are the myriads of Ephraim. It gets translated as 10,000s of Ephraim, I believe. Yeah, 10,000s right here. And the thousands of Manasseh. Here. This is the myriads. This is plural, myriad, but this is plural, myriads. Abundance, specifically a myriad. They are the thousands. And they are the thousands. Here it is, the Aleph, thousands of Manasseh's thousands. Here's Genesis 48. Then Israel stretched out his right hand and laid it on Ephraim's head, who was the younger, and his left hand on Manasseh's head, guiding his hand knowingly, for Manasseh was the firstborn. Joseph isn't the firstborn among his brethren. He was the 11th child to be born, I believe, to Jacob by Rachel. Yet, the firstborn glory, what did they say? The firstborn of his herd's glory. You know, the firstborn of his herd's glory. If you got the firstborn of the herd, here's a herd. Herd of elk. A herd of anything. The firstborn of all the herd is the chief among the herd. Until some other chief picks him off. He's going to be the chief. This is the chief. This is the man who's heading it all. Joseph. What does that say about the future? I wonder. Here they said the firstling of the herd. This is Bekor. Bekor. When we talk about firstborn, we're talking about the Bekor. Remember, the firstborn son is the one who gets the blessing. Not the blessing, the double portion. He's the one that's going to lead the family. This is the firstling of the herd. Like a firstling of the herd, majesty is his. This is ASV that's writing this. And his horns are the horns of a wild ox. With them he shall push the peoples, all of them, even the ends of the earth. They are the 10,000s of Ephraim, and they are the thousands of Manasseh. Interesting. He goes on to Zebulun. And of Zebulun, he says, rejoice, Zebulun, in thy going out, and Issachar in thy tents. We're doing Zebulun and Issachar at the same time. Zebulun and they're going out. You know what? I didn't even realize this. I'm going to take this note out. Don't think it fits. In thy going out. This is thy going out. In, this says in. This vav, or this bet, says in. And then the yatsa. Yeah, it's used a little bit differently. It's got some changes on it, but it's pretty much the same word, yatsa. Means to go. To go. In thy going. In thy leaving. Perhaps travels. Leaving. Blessed in your travels. Issachar looks like they're going to stay in their tents. What's Issachar doing in his tents? They shall call, here it is, they shall call peoples to a mountain. There they shall slaughter slaughters. Look what they say. Offer sacrifices. No, it's not offer sacrifices. It says slaughter slaughters. Same word, zavak. One is a noun, one is a verb. Slaughter slaughters of righteousness. For from the resources of the sea they shall be nourished. It seems like that's what Zebulun is going to bring to the tents. And treasures hidden in the sand. I put mountains, seas, and sand all seem to be metaphors. Could these be people that are coming in the last days who maybe are richer, that are going to help provide for Israel's seed in the wilderness? Do we need people like that? Maybe not. Slaughter, slaughters. Here it is. Slaughter, slaughters of righteousness. Slaughter, righteous slaughters. That's really what we're talking about. Slaughter, righteous slaughters. Slaughter the slaughters of righteousness. For they shall partake of the abundance of the seas. They shall suck. Here's the word they were using. Suck. It's almost like they're going to be nourished. Yeah, they shall be nourished is what I put. Suck like milk. They shall be nourished. For they shall partake, they shall be nourished of the abundance of the seas and the treasures hidden in the sand. And of Gad he said, blessed is he who enlarges Gad. No, enlarges Gad. Who is that? Blessed is he who enlarges Gad. Are we talking about Yehovah? Who enlarges Gad? How is Gad enlarged? Gad crouches like a lion. He tears off arm and scalp. We're talking about the top of a head, tearing off lines. He's, again, a metaphor. Crouching like a lion. Is Gad one of the aggressors? Could it say, praise God who made their territory large? This is what some translations put. Praise God. I mean, we're talking about who's he. They're acting like it's God. It may be. Who else are we talking about? Seems like it has to be Yehovah. He provided the first part for himself. For there the ruler's portion was reserved. And he came with the leaders of the people. The people's leaders. He executed the justice of Yehovah and his ordinances in Israel. This is something that Gad's doing. Provided the first part for himself. for there the ruler's portion was reserved. And he came with leaders of the people's leaders. He executed the justice of Yehovah and his ordinance with Israel. Some of these are very, Yahweh talks about speaking to, I do not speak to Moses in dark sayings. Some of these seem like dark sayings to me. But he doesn't speak to Moses in dark sayings. He speaks to him as face to face, is what he always says. And of Dan, he said, Dan is a lion's whelp. He will leap, it says, from Bashan. Again, they're leaving out the definite article. This says Ha Bashan. Ha Bashan. But I don't know how to translate that. Ha Bashan, the Bashan. Perhaps the east, he shall leap from the east. Remember Gad, Dan. So this isn't Dan. He shall leap from the east. Dan. Dan wasn't in the east. Dan is a lion's whelp. He shall leap from Bashan, from the Bashan. Ha Bashan. Bashan was the place, here, if we go to our map, here's Bashan up here. Let me make this a little bit bigger. 50. Here's Bashan. This is where Og was. Remember, Og was in Edrei and Ashtoreth. I think its capital city was Ashtoreth. But this is where Bashan is at. It's in the east. But, if we're going to talk about Dan, well, that's another part altogether, because Dan did have some land in the east, now that I think about it. Here, let me just show you. Here is, because I really didn't have this particular thing set up for this, but it'll work. Here's Dan's land down here. But Dan also got some land up here. This is where the city of Dan is, on the eastern side of the Jordan. This is the Jordan right here, just coming down out of this valley. But Dan is over here. He's got a little person here, and one of the cities, the city called Dan, is over there. That's usually when they're talking about the northernmost boundary of Israel, they talk about Dan. In fact, I think we're going to see that in the very next chapter. We'll see. We had Manasseh, Gad, and Reuben on this side, half the tribe of Manasseh. Now the tribe of Manasseh is over here. All right, we'll come back to this. And Naphtali, he said, O Naphtali, satisfied with favor and full of the blessings of Yehovah, possess the west and the south. That's part of the reason why I said, well, maybe it's the east. Maybe Bashan is the east. He shall leap from the east. And it says, Naphtali is going to possess the west and the south. I don't know. And Asher, he said, Asher is most blessed of sons. Let him be favored by his brothers, and let him dip his foot in oil. He goes on. Your sandals shall be iron and bronze. As your days, so shall your strength be. It sounds like he's going to have long life and good health. I don't know what else to make of it. This was the last son that he's going to do. Now he's going to start this. Remember, this was the blessings. Moses, Elohim's man, blessed Israel's seed. This is them blessing Israel's seed. Remember, this is not the men, Zebulun. This is the tribe of Zebulun. This is the tribe of Issachar, the tribe of Gad, the tribe of Dan, the tribe of Naphtali, the tribe of Asher. This is what we're talking about. Their seed. There is none like Yeshurun's El. Yeshurun's El. No, there is none like Yeshurun's El. In his majestic cloud, he rides heavens to thy aid. Oh, we see that many times in the scriptures. Isaiah 5, Isaiah 11, we're talking about Yehovah coming in a cloud. You know, we got this whole business about Yeshua coming in a cloud. Yeshua is not going to come in a cloud. Yehovah is going to come in a cloud. We see that in many places. Rides the heavens to thy aid. Shamim, there it is, the heavens, the Shamim to thy aid. In a majestic clouds. Majesty. Here's the clouds. Powder vapors. In his majestic clouds, he's going to rides the heavens. There is none like Yeshurun's El. In his majestic glory, he rides heavens to thy aid. Oh, yes, come, Yehovah, come. The eternal Elohim is thy refuge. And underneath are the everlasting arms. He will thrust out the enemy from before thee, and will say, destroy. He is the one who is going to come to our aid. You know, what has been done is going to be done again. I'm looking forward to it. No longer will they say, great is Yehovah who brought Israel's seed out of the land of Egypt, but great is Yehovah who brought Israel's seed out of the north and out of all the places where he has scattered them. Oh, Father, bring us back to yourself. Use me, use men like me to help your people. Then Israel will dwell safely. Oh, look at this. It says, then Israel, I put Israel because I want you to see these are the people saved by Yehovah. These are the fountain of Jacob. These are the Yeshurun. All the same words for these Ezra men, B'nai Israel. Then Israel shall dwell alone safely. Look what they put. Then Israel shall dwell safely. A fountain of Jacob alone. They took the alone and they put it on the fountain of Jacob instead of Israel dwelling alone safely. Israel dwells alone. Why do you think the translators do that? Do you think they somehow want to make Israel be among the nations? I don't understand how this happens. But we see things like this. There's lots of translations that do it the way I'm saying here. This is the way I wrote it. Israel shall dwell alone safely. Jacob's fountain. Upon the land of corn and wine, his heavens shall drop dew. Here's some of the other translations. And Israel shall dwell in safety alone. Then Israel, the fountain of Jacob, shall dwell alone. Dwell alone. We are numbered among the nations. We dwell alone. And Israel shall live alone in safety. A fountain of Jacob in the land of grain and wine, and his heavens drop down dew. Happy are you, O Israel. No, happy are thee, O Israel. Who is like thee? A people saved by Yehovah. Folks, you're not going to be saved by Yehovah if you don't become Israel. It's about becoming Israel. Remember, there's only two men. There shall be one law for the Ezra and for the Ger who dwells with them. One law. But the Ger get to become the Ezra at Passover every year. But first, the Gentile had to become the Ger. Happy are you, O Israel, who is like you, a people saved by Yehovah. Here it is. A people saved by Yehovah, shield of thy help and sword of thy triumph. He's our help, shield of thy help and sword of thy triumph. And thine deceptive enemies shall submit themselves unto thee, and thou shalt tread upon their high places. What are the high places of his and our enemies? They are the places where the Elohim of the land reside. I think that's a good way to say that. The churches, the courthouses, the capitals of the cities and of the nation. Tread down their high places. This is the last chapter, 34. Then Moses went up from the plains of Moab to Nebo, to the top of Pisgah, which is across from Jericho. And Yehovah showed him the land of Gilead as far as Dan. Let's take a look at this. The land of Gilead as far as Dan. First, let's look at this. What did we just read it in 32, and I brought our attention to this. On the right-hand side, verse 49, it says, go up this mountain of the Avarim. Mount Nebo is the mountain that we're supposed to go up to, which is in the land of Moses across from Jericho, and die, he says. But here, 2 chapters later, that's why I say, there's so much confusion in Deuteronomy. It doesn't even agree with itself much more. Maybe I should say much less. The rest of Torah. Why does it say to the top of Pisgah? He just said the Avarim, Mount Nebo, this mountain, Mount Nebo. Now he's got him going up to Mount Nebo to the top of Pisgah. Is Pisgah on Nebo? I don't think so. Looks to me like they're 2 different mountains. And Yehovah showed him all the land of Gilead as far as Dan, all Naphtali, and the land of Ephraim and Manasseh, all the land of Judah as far as the western sea, the south, the plain of the valley of Jericho, right down in front of him, the city of the palms, that's Jericho, the city of the palms, as far as Zor. Let's take a look. What could he see from this mountain range? This is pretty interesting. He is, I'm going to have to even make this bigger. That's 50. I guess I'm going to go to 30. He's pretty much where this dot is, this star, the red star. And from this star, he can see all the way up to Dan. Dan is on, remember, we were just pointing it out. The city of Dan is on, they said it was at the end of Gilead. This whole land here is the land of Gilead. Bashan is included in it. What is the way they said that? Showed him all the land of Gilead as far as Dan. Yeah, there it is. The land of Gilead as far as Dan. So he's seeing all of this. Then, let's go to our map. Maybe this would be an easier way to see this. Well, let me just show you first this. Here's Zor. Zor was at the southern end of the Dead Sea. It was one of the 5 cities that were destroyed when Sodom and Gomorrah were destroyed. It was at the south end of that. Here is the map that we were just at. Here we go. All right. So here's Dan. You can see all the land of Gilead. Here's Gilead. This is all the land of Gilead. This stuff on the eastern side of the Jordan. As far as Dan, then it said Naphtali and Manasseh and Ephraim. Then he talked about Judah, all the way out to the sea. He talked about Jericho and the valley in Jericho. That's right here in this area. And Zor, all the way down to Zor. These are all the places that he could see. These are all the places that Israel is going to inherit this land. Remember, it's about the land and the sea. The land and the sea. This was the promise that Yehovah gave to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. The land and the sea. We were unfaithful. We got kicked out of the land. We're deceived for a long time, but there's always been a remnant in. But now Yehovah is raising up new seed. His kind, the Kassid. Those who cut covenant with him by slaughter. Moses is going to see all the land right now that we're going to inherit. But he's not going to go into it, unfortunately. The city of the palms, the valley of Jericho, the city of the palm trees. The city of the palm trees is the city of Jericho. Here it is, right here in 2 Chronicles 28:15. So they brought them to their brethren at Jericho, the city of palm trees, and they returned to Samaria. So here we're talking about the plain of the valley of Jericho, the city of the palm trees. Yeah, makes sense. Then Yehovah said to him, "This is the land of which I swore to give Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, saying, I will give it to thy seed. I have caused thee to see it with thy eyes, but thou shalt not cross over there." Well, folks, this is it. You know, we're talking about the wrap-up on Torah. It's about the land, and it's about the seed. This is a good translation. They have the land. The land. He's giving it, as he promised, to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, to their seed. It's about the seed in the land. The seed in the land. Thy seed. The land and thy seed. Unto thy seed. I could even put, or to thy seed. To thy seed. Or unto. Works, both work. To thy seed. Unto thy seed. I will give it unto thy seed. This is the faithfulness of Yehovah. Consider the latter end. Is Yehovah faithful or is he not? I'm betting my life that Yehovah is faithful. That he is a rewarder of those who diligently seek him. Who make him their only Elohim. So Moses, Yehovah's servant, died there, in the land of Moab, according to Yehovah's word. His servant. And he buried him in a valley in the land of Moab, opposite Beth Peor. This sounds like Yehovah buried Moses. It seems that Moses went up that mountain alone to die, didn't he? That was the last we saw of him. Moses was 120 years old when he died. His eyes were not dim, nor his natural vigor diminished. Oh? What did it say just a chapter or two before? Here's 31. Verse 1. Then Moses went and spoke these words to Israel. And he said to them, I am 120 years old today. I can no longer go out and come in. No longer go out and come in. This just says, his eyes were not dim, nor his natural vigor diminished. Does one work with the other? I don't know. And Israel's seed wept for Moses in the plains of Moab 30 days. So the days of weeping and mourning for Moses ended. Now Joshua, the son of Nun, Ben-Nun, was full of wisdom's spirit. Wisdom's spirit. For Moses had laid his hands on him. So Israel's seed heeded him and did as Yehovah had commanded Moses. Now they say, but since then there has not arisen in Israel a prophet like Moses, whom Yehovah knew face to face. That means if it wasn't Joshua, it's got to be somebody else. I think it's going to be the male child. Remember, a male child, this is what Miriam said when she was like 4 years old. A male child shall be born to my father and my mother, and he shall deliver Israel. I think there's a male child coming again. But this male child is not Yeshua. Get that false image out of your mind. This male child is Israel. Let my son go that he may serve me. That's the male child. It's a group of spiritually born men. His Kassid, his firstborn. In all the signs and wonders, still talking about the prophet like Moses, who in all the signs and wonders which Yehovah sent him to do in the land of Egypt, before Pharaoh, before his servants, and in all the land. And by all that mighty power and the great terror which Moses performed in the sight of all Israel. No, this is going to happen again, you guys. Yehovah is coming back. And he's going to deliver Israel once again. I think he's going to use this male child, the Israel seed, his servants, his Kassid. They're called the banner in the wilderness. They're called the root of Jesse. They're called many things. But he's going to give them also wisdom's spirit. In fact, he talks about giving them more than that. Here's Isaiah 11. Here we go. There shall come forth a rod from the stem of Jesse. A branch shall grow out of his roots. Who's Jesse? Jesse is the father of David. A man after Yehovah's own heart. We're talking about spiritual roots coming forth from Jesse. Not the strong brothers that he had, the man of the Spirit, the man who knows Yehovah. The Spirit of Yehovah shall rest upon him. Wisdom, spirit, and understanding. The spirit of counsel and might. The spirit of knowledge and the fear of Yehovah. His delight. His delight. This is the male child's delight. Is in the fear of Yehovah. He shall not judge by his eyes, nor shall he decide by his ears. See, we have made this all about Yeshua. Those people who are indoctrinated in this can't even see the truth. They miss the context of what's actually going on. Yehovah is raising up people for himself. A people for himself. Remember, his possession is his people. Israel's seed. To them, he's going to give the land. This time, he's going to give the whole earth to them, because the earth is Yehovah's and all who dwell in it. Oh, may we live to see the great arm of Yehovah working on Israel's behalf. Oh, that's the desire of my heart. Father, let me influence men to rise up and become wholly yours. Well, this is what this whole series has been about. This is the second time that we've gone through it. Go back to the beginning. If you do a search for 2G01, that's the second time that we've done Genesis, and 01 indicates the first lesson in Genesis. Happens to be Genesis 1. 2G01. Do a search for that on the internet, and you'll be able to start this series once again from the beginning. Oh, the wonderful things that you will discover as we go through the scriptures together. Please consider joining me. Next week, we're going to do a wrap-up. We're going to do some of Yasher, and we're going to call it good. We're seeing that Yehovah is bringing his people into their land. Yehovah is faithful to his words. All right, well, I got to run. We'll talk to you next week. Bye now.